Hello, I'm Reza Rad from RedAcad. In this video, I'm going to talk about Power BI Workspace. What is it? How you can use it to share the content in Power BI environment? What is the difference of this versus other methods of sharing in Power BI? Let's go and learn all about Power BI Workspaces in this video. To understand Power BI Workspace, which is one of the methods of sharing in the Power BI environment, let's first talk about what the workspace is for. It is not just for sharing. Some other methods of sharing in Power BI, such as the button that you see as a share, when you click on it, you can share the report, or you can share the dashboard, or publish to web. These are basically just designed for you to be able to share the Power BI content. Power BI Workspace, however, is for sharing. That is one of the main purposes of this, but another purpose of this is to create a collaborative environment, an environment for a group of people to work together, a group of developers, data analysts to work together on a project. Most of the other methods of sharing don't give others edit access. For example, if I create a report and I share it with someone else in my organizations, they would have read-only access to that. If I create it and share it using Power BI app, they would have read-only access. If I create and use Power BI embedded, most of the time it's read-only unless I specify that it is an edit access. But in Workspace, one of the reasons that we create Workspace is that we can give edit access to other people in the group that we want to share with as an edit access. We can also give them read-only access as well. So let's learn more about this workspace itself. So first of all, when you publish your content into the Power BI environment, there are workspaces that you can publish to. Consider these workspaces as like a shared folder. Like in SharePoint, there are different shared folders, or in a network drive, there are multiple shared folders that you can add files into that, and there can be different people having access to these shared folders. So these workspaces in Power BI are also considered as shared folders. To get access to these workspaces after you log into Power BI, this is where you can find a list of workspaces. You'll see all the workspaces that either you have created or some of those that someone else created, but you have access to it. And you always see also a workspace called My Workspace. My Workspace is like my document, my desktop folder that you can use to publish content in it, but it shouldn't be used for an organizational environment, because usually this is only for yourself, not for organizational environment. But I'll explain in this video that Power BI administrator how can access to this My Workspace throughout the tenant. This is one of the new features added in the workspace. So to create a workspace, you can go and click on the create workspace. All you need to specify is a name for the workspace. Let's say sample YouTube workspace, I'm going to call it. You can have some descriptions, but that is not mandatory. And you can have an image, an icon, which is showed when people see this workspace. The mandatory in this part is basically just the workspace name. And clicking on save, this would create that workspace for you. There are, however, some other options in here as well. For example, one of the things is that who are the contact list of this workspace. You can specify that. You can have a workspace OneDrive so that people can use the OneDrive folder associated with it. Not really commonly used, but it is an option. An important option here is the workspace type. The workspace usually is by default is under a pro user. One of the things about workspaces is that you have to have a pro account or premium per user account to create it, at least. Even if you have a premium capacity, you still need a pro account to create that workspace, to be part of that workspace. But another thing about premium workspace is that if you want your workspace to be a premium workspace so that you can share the content of this workspace, for example, with free users later on using Power BI apps, here is where you can choose it. For example, you can choose a premium per user or premium capacity or embedded workspace, choose the storage format and things like that. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to keep it as pro. I'll explain about the other options a little bit later. So as soon as I save this, this would create that workspace. You see, this is a workspace created. If I go to the list of my workspaces, I should see this new one that I created. YT sample YouTube workspace. This is my workspace. It doesn't have any content in it. I just created it. And then I can add content to this using the add content option here, using the new option here. I can add content such as report, dashboards, scorecards or metrics, data flows, data sets. Some of these I can easily create in the website, in the Power BI service itself, such as data flow or data mart if it is a premium workspace. But some of these I can even publish from the Power BI desktop. Like for example, if I have this report in Power BI desktop, when I click on publish, assuming that I have access to that workspace, I click on publish and this would give me the list of workspaces that I can publish to. This is that workspace that we just created. I click on select and this would just publish it into that workspace. Not only me, anyone who has edit access on that workspace. I'll talk about the access scenario in the workspace in a second. So this is now published in that workspace. If I go to that workspace, you see that the report and the dataset is published. One of the good things about Workspace is that you can have as many as contents in here as you want. The big difference of this with the individual item sharing that you see on the dashboard or on the report is that here you can have like hundreds of reports, dashboards. You can share them all using the workspace itself. When you share the workspace with someone, they will have access to everything in there, not just one or two items. Another thing about Workspace is that Workspace is not just for report and dashboard. The simple sharing, the individual sharing, usually you do that for report, dashboard only. You can share a data flow with that. Here in the workspace, you can do that for data flows, data sets. Some of these and data mart. Some of these objects are only you are only able to create them inside a workspace, right? So adding the content of Workspace can be done by you or anyone who has access. So how the access setup is in the Workspace. So you see at the top of the Workspace, we have the option to go and set up the access. And here is a little bit different based on do you have a Power BI Workspace version 1 or version 2. Version 1, you cannot create it these days anymore. This is an older version we used to create like a couple of years ago, 3 years ago. These days, any workspace you create is version 2 workspace. Version 2 workspace has these 4 levels of access. A user can be admin, member, contributor, or viewer. Viewer basically just view the content, doesn't have any edit access. But the other 3 access levels, they have edit access. Contributor is someone who can publish the content, like what you saw I published from Power BI desktop to this. Any contributor level user can do that. But a contributor level user cannot share the content of this using Power BI app or any other methods, even individual sharing to others. That is only the access that member or admin can do. So member and admin has the sharing capabilities. And it is quite important that these are separated because otherwise someone from the developer team would go and publish the content to the end user, which is not the right way to do it. Usually you need to have deployment group to do that. So deployment people or deployment group are actually member. This is not the best name for a role defined, but that is what this is. Member can do everything that contributor can do, plus can share and publish the content as an app or create an app on top of it. There is an option when you create a workspace that says, do you want to give contributors access to update an app? I would highly recommend not to do it because then you are making contributor and member the same thing. I wouldn't recommend that option at all. Let's leave that job to the member. And finally, admin of the workspace is someone who can add other members like members or admins. Admin can also delete the workspace and do some other configurations on the workspace. So usually the developer team would have contributor level access. Viewer is the access level you might just use for test users, not even production users. For them, we would use Power BI app, which I explained in another video. Member for deployment managers, and admin for a specific group of people only. I have a separate video explaining all of these access levels. That is why I keep it short in this video. Now, there are some other configurations on the workspace as well. Not everyone within the organization can create the workspace. If I'm the Power BI tenant administrator, I can go to the setting of admin portal. Under tenant settings, there's a section that I can go and choose who can create workspace. You see there's a workspace setting section in here that I can choose. Creation of workspace is by who. It is good to minimize this, to do it only, to allow it only for a specific group of people who know what they are doing. Otherwise, you'll end up with tons of different workspaces. There are some configurations here about like upgrading workspaces or blocking the upgrade, automatic upgrade of the workspace. One of the new features added, and when I say new features, it is like the past couple of weeks added, is that previously admin, Power BI tenant admin of a tenant couldn't even access my workspace of those people who left the company, and that would have created a lot of trouble because someone left the company, have created the content in that workspace, and no one has access to it. So now, as the Power BI admin, Power BI tenant admin, you can actually access the My Workspace, the personal workspaces. To do that, you have to go to Workspaces section. Discarding this to the Workspaces section. Here you would see all the workspaces. This part is not new. Any Power BI tenant admin can see all the workspaces created in this area, but now this also shows the personal workspaces. And if I find any personal workspaces, I'll just go and see if I can find anything in here that looks like a personal workspace. You'll see, for example, these are personal workspaces. Then I have the option to get access to that workspace. Then I would be able to see the content of that workspace. Or I can go and look at some details of this workspace. Also, if I have premium capacity, I can set up some configurations so that all of these personal workspaces go under specific capacity under that premium capacity. So back to my workspace, back to this workspace that I've been showing to you through this example. What are advantages of Workspace? One big advantage of Workspace is that you can share multiple items. It is not just one report, one dashboard you are sharing. You can put as many as content in there and share it with others. And another thing is that it is not just about the reports or the dashboard. You see, there are all kinds of Power BI objects you can have inside that workspace, and you can share it with others. Another big benefit, which is the main usage of the workspace, is having a development environment. If I'm working in a sales team, and in our sales team we are 4 data analysts, we would create a workspace for sales and we would collaborate in there. I'll create a report, someone else go and edit it, someone goes and make some changes, do some testing. This is our development collaborative environment. But this should not be used, the workspace itself should not be used to share the content with the end user, because then you are making your developer environment same as your end user environment. For that, we use Power BI app, which I'll explain in another video. So isolation of these two environments is using the app on the end user side, the workspace on the developer side. So the best development environment you can create is actually this workspace. If you use workspaces in Power BI, you can use also other components in Power BI that can help in creating multiple environments. For example, you might create an environment for development, test, user testing, one environment for production. Then you can go and create deployment pipelines that publish content from one environment to another environment. The disadvantage of Workspace, I wouldn't call it disadvantage, I would just call it a limitation, and that is the fact that you need a pro license or premium per user license. Even if you have a premium capacity and you assign your workspace under that premium capacity, you still need pro users to be part of your workspace. So anyone who you are giving access to the workspace in any of these levels needs to be a pro user. Unless you share them using the Power BI app, then the Power BI app users can be free users when the workspace content is on a premium capacity. Those premium capacity workspaces, you see them with this little diamond icon, and if you see the little guy beside this diamond icon, that means it's a premium per user workspace. So in summary, I would highly recommend using Power BI Workspaces for collaborative environment, especially if you are not the only Power BI developer in your company. These are definitely something to consider, but I would not suggest this to share the content with the end user. For that, use Power BI app, which I explained in another video. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you like this video, go ahead and subscribe into our YouTube channel. We have weekly videos on Power BI. Until the next video, bye.